Hello and welcome to another very special episode of Bonus Action here at the Madness Table, where all your questions are answered and all the secrets are revealed, at least the ones you remember to send us on the Discord. Please join the Discord! For the Madness Table, this is Andrew Walker, joined here by Mr. Brandon Proal,
Ayo.
Mr. William Johnston, and Miss Samantha Ann Conklin. There she goes. All right, this time we're talking the Kingdom of Ember arc. That's episodes about 51 to 68. So close to glory. So brief summary, we end with the heroic death of the obvious main character of our story, Indigo Honeydew. Hallowed be his name. The party
Anime rules.
Yeah, important stuff. The party finds themselves in the company of one Artemis Starcaller and the Scale Guard, heading off to a place called the Kingdom of Ember that we get to know pretty well during this arc. It is, after all, what we named the arc after. After we meet with King Balatier, we make our way to a nearby tomb, find an extremely OP magic weapon, Dawn's Edge, and fight off some baddies before we head off for some shenanigans around the city, getting to know its inhabitants a little bit better. We end up gaining some new allies, opening up some new mysteries, and then fording our path into the heart of Din Cairn and a demonic cult therein. It's a wild little ride here, so let's get into it. We're going to start off with a question from Mr. Johnston himself. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with the kingdom? This is our first large scale homebrew element. We've had locales, we've had characters, but this is a whole city, a whole kingdom.
Well, this was a super fast, because I think we had recorded the fall, like the immediate fall of Indigo, and then we were doing a double that night, and it was the first episode, and like the whole time during the second episode I was like, holy smokes, we just lost Indigo and we have to record another episode like immediately. And then you and I got talking, and you told me this idea for this paladin, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. And I really wanted to explore some more of the underdark races that aren't talked about in this adventure path, and kobolds came to mind. And I was kind of tired of the whole we're weak, nasty little creatures. I was like, all right, let's totally go to the flip side. Let's make them high and mighty. And then I think I had actually said it to you, Andrew, or I had mentioned it to a friend. I was like, I'm going to go almost like Renaissance level of like, or not Renaissance, but like a Renaissance fair level of just knightly fashions and all sorts of stuff. And so it started as a joke, but then I got really into it, and I love this idea of this humanoid lion just walking amongst these mini lizard dragons and fitting in so perfectly after everything that he went through. And I also felt too that the party needed something resembling kind of like a safe haven, because from the moment you begin this book, you are always in danger. You're just trying to survive. You are, they ask, or they suggest to DMs at the beginning, like, none of your player characters should be like races from the Underdark, so that you have no idea of anything that's really down here. And so I wanted to give the party something that was calmer, but still introduced a different Underdark race and a little more elaborate. So that's where it started.
I'm curious to hear more about your creation of Starcaller, Andrew.
Absolutely. As we have kind of been discovering through our playthrough, as we are now past in real time episodes 100 or so, Starcaller has a bit of a darker edge to him, but he's kind of at his best and brightest in the Kingdom of Ember. And when I was making him, I wanted to make a character that was different from Indigo. I remember early on there was a few moments with Indigo where like my instincts as a player and his instincts as a character were very much at odds. Like there's times where he is snuck up, on like the hag on the island and like has a clean shot before hostilities actually break, but he's not the kind of guy to shoot the first shot. So he doesn't. And I wanted to play characters a little bit different. Indigo had just died. I was looking for something that also had a little bit of versatility. So I was thinking Paladin. So I would have a little bit of offensive capabilities, also some healing abilities in case, because the party didn't have an obvious healer at that point. Because Sue had already bit the lava as well. Kind of a twofer there. And I just rewatched Lion King 2 and played a lot of Call of Duty. And I was like, what if Kovu was Ghost?
Kovu. That was his name.
Yes. And I also wanted to, every time I make a character, I try to do something I've never done before. So I had never played a Paladin before. I almost always shy away from playing non-near human humanoids. I usually don't like to play things that don't look terribly a lot like people. So a lead-in was a big jump for me. And to kind of, Lion King edge, as well as I love the daunting roar effect. Is a really fun mechanical bit to add with a conquest paladin who kind of relies on fear. Which as we delve deeper into the darker recesses of Starcaller's personality, that's very much kind of so a nice bit of synergy there.
The daunting roar that's never worked.
It has not once worked, but one day it will.
One day it will.
One day.
When it's not used against a demon lord.
Eventually I'm going to find someone who looks real bad at wisdom saves, and that's when I'm going to hit them.
There we go. Yeah.
Fair enough.
And our next question actually comes from a listener. It's actually a little cover for Will and I. Will, where did you spring this Beatrice idea? Like, where did this come from? Because the question, as asked by one of our Discord users, Sakajua, was, did you spring Beatrice on Andrew, or was it pre-planned? And I can confirm it was not pre-planned.
Absolutely not. Yeah, it was a total surprise on Andrew, and it was legitimately just I wanted to fuck with Andrew a little bit. Because I think, if I remember correctly, going back through, I had sent you guys before we had begun like a checklist of things you were okay with and not okay with. And I think the one thing that like just about everybody except for maybe Andrew, if I'm remembering right, had checked on was like inter-party romance, was not interested. But I think Andrew hadn't checked that one as like an okay or not.
He was like, yes.
Yes.
And so
I can't believe you guys don't want to make pretend smooch me.
I mean, Andrew, Beatrice is there, man. You just gotta get back to the Kingdom of Ember. We'll dive. I ain't afraid to role play.
When I filled out that form, I didn't know you guys at all.
It's true, Stan. You didn't know, especially.
And now
Brent
she knows us, so there's a big red cross.
Yeah. Absolutely not.
Yeah, that's a no.
She's like, it went from I'm not sure to absolutely fucking not.
Yeah. So yeah, it was mostly I just wanted to mess with Andrew a lot, and then I also, like Andrew, I'm like, what have I not done before? What's a good gag in this moment? And it stuck and it worked, and Andrew has been a great player about it.
Yeah, nothing else. I'm always down for hijinks, and I also say for me, I really like this idea. Actually, this hints to our next question, so I'll ask that, then I'll get back to Beatrice, who I always come back to. Question was the creature that attacked Starcaller's Nissel's crew in his background? Like, was it a Garistro? Yes, it was. Because when I was talking to Will, I was like, I want a character who has a connection to the demon plot, but isn't like a cut and paste like member of like the party. And so I want a character who came down to Underdark for completely different reasons. Came down willingly, but on a different quest, and just got swiped by the rage of demons, which I assume must be happening to a lot of people who come down to the Underdark now, as that is a huge, as we've known, multiple demon lord layered threat. So yes, it was a Gristro, because I asked Will what demon could I have fought, and he's like, well, I guess you can have a Gristro. So I was like, all right, that's a good enough get. That's a stat block that I wouldn't be too surprised wiped out a bunch of level 3 adventurers.
Yeah. Well, it was also the thing too of like, you were like, here's this conquest paladin coming from this particular culture in your background and stuff like that, and I didn't want it to be. I wanted to give your former party a good like ending, and something that you would be like, one of these days I'm going to take that Minotaur bastard down, kind of a thing.
Yeah, he didn't get taken down by a couple of imps. It was a worthy fight to lose.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
But like getting back to Beatrice, like this like encounter with the Gristro, this totally shattered like the idea that Artemis had of being down here, and I wanted to show also that he kind of grew in this kobold society. Like that's kind of where his rogue levels come from. He's kind of retrained how he is going to fight this war, and he's also fallen a bit in love with parts of the Underdark. Beatrice being part of that.
Before we move on from allowing you to talk about yourself, Andrew,
one of the best episodes.
I do have sort of a mechanical question about your Starcaller creation. I'm always curious, was there a pressure for you to make a paladin or some sort of healing class where we did just lose the party cleric? Was that like something you were heavily influenced by, or are you able to sort of not be so heavily swayed by the party makeup?
I am nearly always the person who picks their class last in a party, because I love party cohesion, and it also takes the pressure off of me of choosing what I actually want. So I was definitely thinking like, oh, we need a healer, but also was thinking that a lot of times Indigo wasn't doing like a lot of healing.
Sure.
So maybe just someone who like Laura in those bad moments could drop a little healing hands on. It's like, hey, Starcaller has Cure Wounds packed. Has he used it? I don't think so.
No.
But it's it's the last ditch. Because I mean, also in 5e combat, your action is almost always better spent attacking than defending. Unless you got that healing word in your back pocket.
Right.
Fair enough.
And I mean, also I need those spell slots. They're for smiting.
They're for smiting. The all-out assault plan that you guys have as a party makeup has served you well so far.
Yeah.
The alive members well.
Trumps defense anytime.
Yeah.
Always attack, never defend. So after we met with our kobold monarchs, our first kind of quest in their name was the tomb that provided the theater for the trials of Dawn's Edge, which was a nasty bit of like undead combat. And personally, one of my favorite, I want to say like hoodwinkings of a trap that I've yet seen. And I want Sam and Brendan to speak about this. If memory serves, this is Sephel's first cold-blooded brain slurp. That also Scylla's like, hey, you want to, maybe suck on this mummified brain so we don't open this chest by accident? Sam, where did this absolutely mad idea come from? And then Brendan, how do you feel about really getting down to that illithid nature?
When this happened, I still remember, like in my head, I was like, there's organs in those jars. No. And then I was like, well, are there any brains in those jars? And he didn't pick up on it yet. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. There's a brain in there. I was like, oh, you fucked up. It was just like, I think you literally had said there are organs in there. And I'm always thinking about like that ability for Sephel, because it really has given us huge amounts of information every time.
No, I was honestly totally shocked that you initiated that. like I am very frequently the like fucked up push the boundaries kind of person that's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna munch some brain on that jar. 3,000-year-old brains, hit me up, dude. But no, to have somebody else,
Yeah.
like especially Scylla, sort of initiate that action, was absolutely insane.
Well, Scylla's like perfect for that because she doesn't like she like pretends to be like a normal person, and like in her
Right.
mind this is like brain, man, get in there.
Yeah. This is, you eat this, eat it.
Yeah.
No, the choice that you made in Scylla's creation to have her be like totally lack nuance, to just be
yeah.
like straight up what you see is what you get,
Yeah.
has
Eat the
led to
brain.
so many good moments.
She's Amelia Bedelia with a really high strength score.
Yeah,
Yes,
Amelia
and we cherish her.
Bedelia.
Yes.
Aw.
Um,
Love that.
yeah, I mean, it was such a I think my shock was definitely felt a little bit by Sefel as someone who is not, he was still getting used to this ability at the time. He was still very much fighting if it was even okay to like, it was sort of a thought crime at that
Mhm.
point for him to be like, hey, is it okay if I eat a brain in front of you
Taboo.
guys? So to have it suggested by another party member was sort of like one of those moments in Scylla's, not even early time with the party, but like one of those earlier moments where he was like, oh, you look at things differently. Yeah, but it was weird. I think it was actually the first like voluntary choice of, this doesn't have to be what we do, but we're choosing to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It was weird. It was definitely a turning point.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And Will, as someone who had a gnarly trap, as it seems, waiting for us, how pissed were you that Sefel brain sucked his way out of it?
I was so fucking mad. but also so proud because I gave Brendan that ability. And then I was like, oh yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be fun. And it was the first instance of game breaking. And I was like, fuck. I think I can't remember if it got left in the episode at this moment, but I'm pretty sure I was like, God damn it. I totally lost it.
Yeah.
Which is so funny too, because like Sefel, when you talked to me about that ability, like it was a big conversation when we decided Sefel was a mind flayer, of you being like, how deep do you want to go here? Like, how mind flayer do you want to go? And it was always something that I was pushing against. So I'm very glad that when I embraced it, it was to your detriment.
No, it's good. And I actually flipped back into the book where the lost tomb is here, because I don't know if I ever told you guys the effects that would have occurred with that trap had you not eaten the brain and had that information. But it's called the false tomb. And if you were to have opened the sarcophagus, it triggers a magic mouth spell. And like this voice calls out and it says, you have disturbed the tomb of Brissus of Kahim. Accursed are you, most miserable of creatures. And all of you would have had to make a DC 15 charisma saving throw. And on a failure, the creature is cursed with disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws. And the creature can repeat the saving throw after 24 hours have elapsed, ending the effect on itself with a successful save. Otherwise, a remove curse spell ends this effect. And then it's like, if you had gone on and destroyed the Wraith later on, it would have ended the effect anyways. But like, it potentially could have gotten really bad and made that relatively easy fight later on much more difficult. So you really skipped a big one there. So good job.
That would have been right, and it would have made it much harder for me to claim what is to date my favorite magic item, apart from the deck of many things, that I've ever gotten in a game. Did you know that she would be this like powerful and like definitive for like Artemis's build? Is she based on an item from the book? And would you give it to us again?
I would 100% give it to you again. It is the Lost Tomb is actually one of the early sub-adventures of 3 that they give, and there's 2 others that I haven't used yet. That can come up later because they're even like, you can throw these in later as a random encounter kind of a thing. And I had I had plans for this one to come up early because it's a suggestion too of like, if your party starts losing a lot of NPCs early on, that's supposed to help them with these really difficult fights. You could throw the Lost Tomb at them and give them this weapon as a means of, being more balanced. And however, the thing is she was supposed to be known as Dawnbringer, and she was a Sunblade, just a regular Sunblade. However, I was like, I want to do more flavor-wise. So I made her an axe, and I was like, well, Dawnbringer sounds cool, but I want to make something that's more fitting for the axe. So I figured Dawn's Edge was cool, but she does come with like the full personality. And I think you guys figured out, or maybe you never realized, but you remember that there was a voice calling out to you all before?
Yeah.
That was her calling to you guys, drawing you into the tomb. But yeah, I didn't at the time when I was getting this all prepared that what a powerful friggin' combo it was going to be for you later. But it's very fitting, and I love it. And I also expected far more of a fight between you and Scylla over her possession as well.
I will say I did feel guilty claiming it. But now you have Caliber, and so it all worked out.
I gotta tell you, at the time, I mean, I love weapons, but like they're not the thing that I'm like, I have to have it. Like, I think they're awesome, and I love the idea of it, but ultimately it just wasn't. I think I also had just gotten, like, I really loved my trident at the time. Like, it was felt a little more like matching of her whole aesthetic for the trident.
It's true. Yeah, you had a fantastic theme going, and you were sticking to it, and it was great.
And I think on our way out of the tomb, Brenda, I think this is your first use of polarity shift, and perhaps your only use of polarity. Is this your first custom spell in the game?
So it was actually not my first use of it. I had used it one time before, although it was like very offhand. Nothing, like, we didn't really say anything about it. But yeah, so polarity shift is the first spell that I created. It's purely a utility spell. It can't be used in combat. It is a similar spell to Spider Climb. The actual utility of it in sort of being synchronized to the Graviturgy Wizard, I wanted to flavor it that way. So basically what it does is it changes your gravitational anchor. You choose a surface that you can see, and that is the surface that gravity naturally pulls you towards. But there is the downside to that. Like, you can't change it on a whim. Like, if you were to pass a hole on a wall, you would fall into that hole as if it was on the ground. So it was just sort of an interesting thing. I was playing with the bounds of Graviturgy magic. Will and I have a couple other spells that we've sort of pitched back and forth, but a lot of them have hit the back burner at this point. I'd like to get back to that at some point. But yeah, polarity shift was my first.
Love that.
Very nice. You never forget your first spell.
And you don't.
As we, new spell in the offing and new weapon, we head back to the Inner Kingdom where we got, a look at, the great kingdom of Ember and the city of Dincairn itself, got to explore a little bit, and we had a little bit of midnight madness where we thought we were getting a long rest. Instead, we got into trouble, which we so often do. Sam, you got to battle another martial powerhouse here.
Yeah.
And ended up rather literally dropping the elbow on them from the top rope.
Yeah.
How did it feel to go toe for toe, blow for blow with this barbarian?
Should have called it Wethelmania.
Yeah, WrestleMania. Oh my god, that's so good.
Fuck, we gotta go back.
Oh, yeah, I gotta rename it.
Change the episode in post. It's fine.
Yeah. That was so fun that Will set that up, because it was like I truly got to play around with all my like battle maneuvers, and particularly Shield Master, because usually like in all the combats we've had since then, like it's difficult to use the shield because I've got all these other like things going on, and so in that moment it was truly just like Shield Master getting right in there. I was really nervous though. Will had talked it up. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get my ass kicked.
You played it so well though, because I was like, yeah, this should be a good CR solo encounter for you, and then you just mop the floor with them, which was so fitting, because I also was like, I've always wondered too, I'm like, if a barbarian or a fighter were to go toe to toe, who would come out on top, you know? And to me, you said fighter clearly. So
yeah, hell yeah. Well, and that was also when your one of your most popular TikToks hit, Will.
Oh yeah,
the one,
yeah.
I don't know the movie that's from, but it was so good.
I don't remember what that movie is either, but I remember seeing the clip and I was dying for hours afterwards, because it's the TikTok I later made. That's all that came to mind.
Everyone, if you're listening to this, you got to check out the Madness Table on TikTok, and it's one of the pinned. It's actually the first pinned TikTok.
Yeah, it's our biggest one, I think, besides how does your wizard learn their spells?
Oh yeah, Green Brain,
yeah. Oh god, no, that was a good fight.
It was fun.
Yeah. One of our more mysterious areas and was this ruined quarter that we got a peek at a little bit later. But Brendan, you had been talking about like getting yourself in there and doing some exploration for the longest time. What did it take to hold yourself back until we handled business?
It was hard. It was really hard, and a lot of it came down to the lore surrounding the area that King Boletaire had passed along to us. If it had been something as simple as like, I'm going to walk down to the library and do some research, that's one thing. But this was clearly an area that was entrenched in a lot of, history in the city. It had a very ominous nature to it, and not least of which, obviously, the gate that no one could get through. So yeah, it was very much I actually remember, in those episodes, chomping at the bit to get in there, and it just being okay, when we finish this thing, we go, right? Like we get rid of the monster in the springs, and then we go to the ruins. That's the next thing. But yeah, no, he always sort of had like his head on a swivel looking at that area.
Nice. And after our little sojourn and exploration, we got our new Wethelmania companion, and then we headed into the springs where we fought my least favorite aberration, the Slod, which I thought was going to be the worst thing, but it wasn't. We had an aspect of Thogua. Also, I will also point out, Will, bad guy falling into a pool and coming out as a dark avatar is again exactly the end of Act 2 of Baldur's Gate 3. How did you hack Larian's servers to get this info?
You guys don't know this, but now I can say it because, they've won all the Game of the Year awards and such. I was their ghostwriter.
That's cool. I'm glad you did nothing with that money to help out the pod.
Listen, I got an old house. Shit needs renovations, okay?
Sure. Sure. When are you starting those?
No. I've invested in property for everybody here in the podcast, so you can all move closer.
Ooh. You know what? He put it in Bitcoin before the fall. He's too much of a coward to say it.
No, I don't know. There's been a weird amount of coincidences, and lately too, I've like someone else mentioned it to me, and I was like, Yeah, I should really go back through all my previous notes before Baldur's Gate 3 came out and make sure it doesn't sound like I'm ripping them off, because it'll probably be 2 years from now by the time we wrap up, and it'll be like, Jesus Christ, he just everything from Baldur's Gate. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Is this guy just playing Baldur's Gate?
So you guys, you can just buy the game, right?
Is Scylla's anger just the dark urge? What the fuck, man?
Yeah, you all three chose the dark urge with these characters.
Honestly,
that's true.
True. No, that
we're the dark three.
Is a TikTok.
Anyway,
speaking of getting after it, at this moment when we first saw the aspect of Sagua, we had two distinct reactions. Sam, Scylla's hesitation to engage the big toad has led to some gorgeous character development down the stretch and some eerie kind of reverberations of her encounter with Dagon. Was this all intentional? Like, what? I guess inside the mind of this creative genius.
We can't handle the truth.
Or Sam's personal terror.
It can be both.
You don't understand, like, as a player, I know nothing about demon princes and demon lords. Sometimes it's a prince and we don't want to fight them. Other times it's something that we can take down. And frankly, they're all terrifying.
Yep.
So in this moment, I was like, we're not fighting that.
We had a lot of talks about that, especially in the next section when Zuchtmoy comes into play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then y'all were like, now we're going in. And I was like, okay, I guess. So I was like, yeah, Scylla just had this like flashback to Dagon, and in my mind I was like, this is a bad idea.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Kingdom of Ember can burn.
Yeah. On the other side of the coin, Sethel had a fuck it we ball attitude in this fight.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the opposite of classic Sethel.
Yeah.
What changed?
So I actually, it's very funny. I read this question and I had to go back and listen because I was like, yeah, I did. What the fuck was up with that? It's not Sethel.
We traded.
No, so what I remember and what I listened to, I highlighted very much at the beginning of that this was sort of the beginning of Sethel's sort of cracking the logical exterior and starting to give into emotion and rage and sort of the his emotional reactions to the lack of control that he had up until that point. And there was a bit of mental thought process that I went through where he was remembering the beach of Sloopadoop with Demogorgon storming the beach when he had developed the short-term madness of not being able to speak, which rendered him useless. He couldn't cast spells. He couldn't do anything. And it was the anger, remembering the last time something like this had happened where he had no control, where he couldn't do anything and people got hurt. So it was sort of a first moment of rage for Sethel. It wasn't actually... There wasn't a plan or logic. It was, I think I said this, I won't, I'm not going to lose control again.
Yeah.
Was sort of the thought there. Translation, fuck it, we ball.
Yep. And it ended up being a hell of a fight. I think Scylla ended up on top of that dang toad.
Scylla carried that fight, which was the funniest thing. Scylla ran away and ended up doing most of the work.
It's also where Scylla began to develop her like signature move, which is teleport on top, plunge attack, Dark Souls style, just on top of everybody.
It's that classic Dimension Door action surge, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
If the shoe fits, wear it, my guy.
You guys are doing great. What was it? It was Stool and Weth that were just at the feet of the aspect of Sagua. And while the rest of you, I think it was like Starcaller with the Gauss Ballista at the time, peppering it, Sethel's launching spells, and then Scylla's riding the whip, essentially just taking out the eyes, which beautiful play.
A beautiful time. And I also think, Will, this might have been about when you were like, maybe we need to revisit this Gauss ballista phenomenon.
Yeah. I was like, I was like, it'll be okay. And then I was like, fuck, it's not okay.
It's not okay.
It's a broken weapon, and then you add divine favor, and it becomes untenable.
Yeah.
Fun fact, that episode titled Battle at the Springs is, I think, the first and the only Sense episode where I have referenced Sephel's staff by name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, Sephel's staff has a name, and I only think I have used it in that one fight.
What's the name?
Yeah,
It's
Brennan.
Celestia.
Ooh, Celestia.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's fun how you all have like a named item now too. So Scylla's got Caliburn, Starcaller's got Dawn's Edge, you, Sephel, have Celestia. It's fun. I didn't think about that, but
I like that.
yeah. I have a question for you guys. This is totally off the cuff. What did you think when you were going down into the Battle of the Springs? Like, you had some baller moments even before the big bad. Yeah. One of my favorite, and I'm like, this will lead into like a greater question of like, what is your singular favorite moment within this arc? But I think one of my favorite moments when you guys were like, oh, wait a minute, we have dynamite. And you just started blowing shit up left and right.
You've had that thought multiple times throughout the podcast.
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah, we have dynamite. That's
guys, we have bombs.
Wait a minute, Sue gave us those.
Yeah, that was... And what was crazy about that is, like, it was the first time we used it, so it was, like, uncovering, like, the radius of it and everything. And I remember us being like, oh, that big.
Yeah, we went to use it. We were like, we should leave the room real quick. Like,
back up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, oh, man, a couple of you fell deaf because of the noise, I think.
Yeah. I think one was definitely me, but for me, it didn't really matter.
Yeah. No, that was one of my favorite item usages to date. Was you guys were just like, oh yeah, dynamite.
It's just the fighter of dynamite, and things happen. Yep. Mostly some slad tadpoles explode.
That's right. I loved the pools of the tadpoles. I thought that was like so interesting, especially for Scylla being aquatic. And then one of my favorite things was that you let me use my wall of water as a jet propeller to get me out. That was great, and it made perfect sense because I could swim up it. It was just that was very cool.
I personally have a lot of internal conflict because, like, as a only logic rules lawyer asshole, when Will pulls rule of cool shit, because it's like, that shouldn't work, but I'm so glad it did.
Yeah. That was me too. I was like,
gotta have
technically cool. That was amazing.
Yes.
Magic, you know.
It do be like that.
Yeah. Speaking of magic, after our victory, we headed off to the fabled ruin section, and Sephel got to chat with a certain wizard named Sagarak for the first time, but not the last. You gave away the dragon egg.
Yeah, I did. I did do that.
I'm not saying I'm against. I'm saying I mean, lost it again.
Sam said it enough for the both of you. I think.
How do we keep ending up a dragon egg down?
Yeah, I know.
I cannot claim fault for the first. That was purely that was the Blue Man group. That was a choice by Will that they had taken the bag, and when we got it back, the egg was gone. I had no control over that scenario. The second one, I have no excuses.
The second one was me.
That was purely for personal gain. He dangled the carrot, and I gave away the kingdom. But for those who watch further, it all worked out in the end, so it's fine. All is forgiven. Well,
Is
Well,
it though?
Well,
Yeah,
that
we'll
that
see.
last part.
yeah, not much. Not much is really
Ask Scylla about that last one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And now
Scylla
Will.
forgives, but she never forgets.
that's right.
I mean, she doesn't forgive either, so good luck.
No, it's true.
Yeah, right.
Luckily, Artemis forgets because intelligence score is very low.
Yes.
Thinking of things that slip, like Artemis's memory, Will, there's a lot going on in those myths that we just barely glimpse. Are there any just like loose secrets that you just want to leave like a little breadcrumb trail to truth for us?
Yeah, I mean, you guys aren't going to dump this back in the episode log, right? Where people are going to listen to this before they catch up to where we are currently. Tell me that.
Correct.
Okay.
It'll happen like after. It'll
All
happen
right.
after 100.
So I can let this loose then, since
Spoiler alert! Spoiler
Jesus
alert!
Christ.
Spoiler alert! You make
Please
it
cut warned.
Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, truly, spoiler alerts. Listen to the solo Cephal app. The Mists, if for those of you that have listened to it, those are so Sekarak is a deep dragon. Who
spicy.
Yeah, they have this fungal breath, and they are like any dragon, they have a certain type of horde that they cultivate, which for deep dragons is like magical knowledge and art and artifacts and various types of things like that. And with their fungal breath and some of their innate magic abilities, they can use that to both like terrify people or fuck with their minds. And so I loved the idea of this. And they like deep dragons also like to be next to water, or like to be close to civilizations as almost living as part of a symbiotic relationship. But I love this idea of there being this ancient deep dragon who had a connection to a character's past that wasn't necessarily Starcaller. Because like really the Kingdom of Ember came up because of Starcaller's creation. And then Brendan didn't know like hardly any of his backstory for his character. He was like, oh, let's do amnesia. We're going to do the whole mind flayer thing. And so I came up with the rest of his background. So the mists are spores that Sekarak releases to prevent essentially unwanted guests from getting too close to his tower and his horde. So yeah, that's what was going on there. Not that the history that you had gleaned and learned was false, because there was a bunch of stuff that happened in the past long ago, and that is explained in those episodes as well.
Yeah, you created a lot of layers. It was like things are true, but not the whole picture.
Yeah.
It's like you have to have the full perspective to put it together.
And I think it's funny that you make that point. I feel like, especially with this most recent arc, that's what you guys are starting to learn, is like everything's got more layers than you think in this adventure path.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. If you don't want to write your character's backstory, just say amnesia. That's how to succeed at character depth without really trying.
Be Brendan, be lazy.
We had this final question comes to us from Discord user Sakajua. There are a lot of good RP moments in the City of Embers. Did anyone have any particular favorites?
Oh God!
For me, it's Grumbles.
Yeah,
Grumbles was hilarious.
Yeah,
is it really? Wow.
Yes, Grumbles, the little kobold,
Oh,
with
the crazy
tinfoil
prophecy
hat.
guy.
Yeah, we ran around
Scylla.
like, yelling out like the Deep King did sloopadoop and
Yup.
other conspiracy things to like attract him to us. And then I think it was Cephal like knocks the tinfoil hat off his head, and then he gets this like wild like Professor Trelawney-esque like scade of actual prophecy, and then like gets
he like grabbed my head or something and like went on this huge I need to listen back to that. I forget what he said.
Oh yeah,
weird. Prophecy's important.
Might be important.
Something about giants.
Couldn't
Something
be.
about giants. which
Uh,
is interesting.
Will loves giants. Oh shit.
I
does.
do love giants, dragons, and giants, man. Love them.
One of my favorite moments was when we came back from the battle at the springs. I think before we went to the ruins, Sefel or figured out that he could connect with people telepathically, at least through some connection that maybe Sekarak had enabled, and he connected to a dream that Scylla was having, where she was reliving the moment where she was running away from the fight. And I remember that because he sort of saw her fear, and through the dream offered, told her that she had saved them, that she was the reason that they were still alive, which was a very cool, like, human meta moment for Sefel. So I really enjoyed that personally.
Yeah. For me, it was all the interactions with Weth after the battle of, like, we were in the banquet hall, and it was just like a food fight happening with Weth.
That's right.
So just some, like, good, like, downtime moments there.
Yeah, those were very good. You know what didn't come up in these questions was because it's one of those parts that I'm like, I wish I had done more, because of, like, my failure there is the trial. Because you guys had gone down into the mines, you fought the hag, you came back, but there was, like, the rich, oh my god, why am I blanking on his name? I made him, but the wealthy merchant miner.
He was the mine owner, and all I can think is Diggermatic, because we've been around them.
Yeah. Who was like, well, it's your fault that the hag's even here. Like,
oh yeah,
you owe these people for the lives lost, for the damages that you brought to this city.
And we just left.
And you took off. I remember
we still owe Dincairn like 2,000 gold each, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we left before they could get the money from us.
Yeah, because you leaned on the king. And I really wanted to drag out that whole trial process, but you guys were very good about being like,
I'm not risking
bullshitting your way, and then you were like, "King, hello, King, we saved your springs. Excuse me."
I couldn't possibly.
Yeah, and then you guys got out of there, and I was like so looking forward, because I was like, "Oh, this isn't something we haven't done in any of our games before. Is like." A trial, and then it was just done. And I was like, what? How can I let this happen?
I remember being eager for a trial as well, but I did think it was the right call to just go.
Yeah. No, you guys did great. You got out of there. It could have gotten really ugly.
In games, as in life, if there's ever a chance to avoid legal action, take it.
Well, so we went up, like, we did go on trial, and they were deciding our, like, that's where they decided, X amount of money is going to be paid. But it was like, so we can stick around the town and they can hate us and throw things at us and whatever. We're like, maybe we should give them some space. Right. I did actually find, funny enough, I was digging through my notes trying to find the mine owner's name. And I found Grumble's Prophecy.
Ooh, let's hear it.
Yeah, read it.
So it was, God.
I just shitty handwriting or your note taking skills?
No, I lost it again. So no, it was giants find the hoard of wealth, an army, a wizard seeking great power. Just like screaming. A lot of that to me now seems like it is referring to at least either history or present tense of Sekarak, and perhaps a little of Sefel. But the giants part, might come out later.
We met one giant.
We did. We met the Dreamer.
So curious.
Curious.
It's all connected.
Connected. Cue paranoid Always Sunny meme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is enough secrets exposed for this episode of Bonus Action. Thank you so much for listening in for our little secrets. And remember, if you want to have questions, if you put them into our Discord, we are legally obligated to answer them. So come on down, write it down, and we'll see you next time.
Hey there, hi there, howdy, and hello. This is Sam hopping in to get everyone excited about end of year Madness Table shenanigans. We, of course, have our weekly episode drops. Those won't be stopping anytime soon. But we also are going to be recording some bonus actions in the coming weeks. If you have questions for any of the squad about the Kingdom of Ember arc, which was episodes 52 to 68, you can send those to themadnesstable@gmail.com. You can DM us on any of our social, or you can hop on over to our Discord. All links can be found at linktree.com/themadnesstable. Thank you all for being here to celebrate our 100 episodes. We also recently hit 10,000 downloads, so we're really loving the growth and the support from all of our Maddie Baddies. Happy holidays, everybody. Stay sane out there.
The madness continues.